What if I told you that the city sitting a mile above sea level, a place most people think of for skiing, craft beer, and legal cannabis, quietly gave America one of its most recognizable fast food empires, a breakfast dish on every diner menu in the country, and the single most controversial appetizer in American food history? Denver, Colorado, the mile-high city. Built by gold rush miners, Chinese railroad workers, Mexican ranchers, and German immigrants, all of them arriving at a crossroads with nothing but what they knew how to cook and a willingness to make something from whatever was available. It's 1993. Steve Ells is 28 years old, a classically trained chef who cooked under Jeremiah Tower at Star's Restaurant in San Francisco. He has a dream: to open a fine dining restaurant. He has $85,000 borrowed from his father. Not enough. So he does what every practical person does: open something cheap enough to afford and profitable enough to fund what he actually wants. He converts a former Dolly Madison ice cream shop on East Evans Avenue, directly across from the University of Denver campus, into a small burrito shop. The concept is borrowed from the taquerias of San Francisco's Mission District. An assembly line, a few fresh ingredients, every customer choosing exactly what they want. He calculates he needs to sell 107 burritos per day to break even. Within 1 month, the restaurant is selling over 1,000 burritos per day. He never opens the fine dining restaurant. He opens more Chipotles instead. But here's what matters beyond the numbers. Chipotle didn't just become a restaurant chain. It invented a category. Before Chipotle, fast food meant a fixed menu, a standardized product, speed as the only value. After Chipotle, a whole generation of restaurants, what the industry now calls fast casual, were built on the same premise: fresh ingredients, visible preparation, customization. Shake Shack, Sweetgreen, Cava. An entire tier of American dining that didn't exist before Ells opened that first shop in Denver. He wanted to fund a fine dining restaurant. He accidentally invented fast casual instead. There is a plaque on California Street in downtown Denver that declares a nearby spot as the birthplace of the Denver omelette. Historians have argued that the story on the plaque is almost certainly false. Denver doesn't care. It still claims the omelette. The city's name is on it. The Denver omelette is one of the most ordered breakfast dishes in America. Eggs, diced ham, onions, green bell pepper, sometimes cheese, folded and cooked flat. It appears on virtually every diner menu in the country. It has been there for generations. And its actual origin is one of the more fascinating food history puzzles of the American West. The most credible theory goes back to the 1860s and 1870s, when Chinese workers were laying the transcontinental railroad through the Rocky Mountain region. These workers brought with them egg foo young, a Cantonese egg dish made with vegetables and protein, and adapted it for the road camps and mining towns of Colorado. Ham, onion, and pepper folded into eggs. Portable. Filling. Substantial calories for a day of brutal physical labor. Something familiar, made from what was available. By the time the railroad reached Utah and Denver became the largest city in the region, the dish had been rechristened. Not egg foo young, not a Chinese dish, a Denver sandwich, served on bread. Then, sometime in the early 20th century, the bread disappeared and the dish became an omelet. The name Denver stuck. The Chinese workers who created it went uncredited, as they went uncredited for most of what they built in the American West. New Mexico will fight you about this. Set that aside. Colorado green chile is its own thing. Not New Mexico green chile, which is a thinner, purer sauce built primarily around roasted green peppers. Not Mexican chile verde, which uses tomatillos as its base. Colorado green chile is a thick, almost gravy-like pork stew, chunks of slow-cooked pork shoulder, fire-roasted green chilies, onion, garlic, cumin, and a masa or flour roux that gives it body and cling. It is meant to be poured, ladled, smothered over everything. And in Denver, everything means everything. Green chile on burritos. Green chile on eggs. Green chile on burgers. Green chile on fries. Green chile in a bowl by itself with a piece of bread to mop it up. There is a sandwich in Denver, the Mexican hamburger, which we'll get to shortly, that exists primarily as a vehicle for green chili. The style developed through decades of interaction between Colorado's Hispanic communities, New Mexican immigrants who moved north for agricultural work starting in the 1920s, and Italian immigrants who settled in Pueblo and encountered the local Pueblo chili pepper, a variety with thicker walls, more heat, and a flavor different enough from New Mexico's hatch chilies that Colorado considers it its own. Denver food writer Gustavo Arellano coined the term Denmex to describe what happened when all of these cultures collided in Colorado's kitchens. This one barely exists outside of Denver, and in Denver, it is considered one of the holy documents of local food culture. It's the late 1960s. Joe's Buffet is a dive bar on Santa Fe Drive on Denver's west side, serving a mostly Hispanic clientele. Someone, the legend credits a waitress named Linda, has an idea. There is a burrito on the menu. There is a hamburger on the menu. What if the hamburger patty went inside the burrito? The result is the Mexican hamburger, a flour tortilla spread with refried beans, filled with a grilled beef patty, smothered in Colorado green chile, covered in melted cheese. Lettuce, tomato, sour cream, and guacamole optional. Fork required. Napkins mandatory. Gustavo Arellano, author of Taco USA, How Mexican Food Conquered America, the definitive book on Mexican food in the United States, called the Denver Mexican Hamburger the holy grail of Mexican-American cookery, and praised its cheesy, mixed-up glory. Let's address this directly. Rocky Mountain oysters are bull testicles. That is what they are. They are stripped of their outer membrane, sliced, dredged in flour and cornmeal, deep-fried, and served with cocktail sauce or horseradish. They are an appetizer. They are on the menu at the Buckhorn Exchange, Denver's oldest restaurant, which has been open since 1893. The Colorado Rockies serve them at Coors Field. Wynkoop Brewing Company, Denver's first craft brewery, has made a Rocky Mountain oyster stout with them as an ingredient. The origin is exactly what you'd expect. Cattle ranching requires castration of young bulls to manage herds and control breeding. In the American West of the 19th century, you did not waste anything. The cowboys and ranch hands who worked the roundups threw the freshly removed testicles onto hot branding irons and cooked them right there on the range. They were calories. They were hot. They were available. They tasted, people reported, not unlike fried calamari. The euphemistic name Rocky Mountain oysters developed over time, partly as a joke, partly as a practical way to get someone to eat them before they knew what they were eating. Denver has two claims to the invention of the root beer float, and both are contested, and Denver doesn't particularly care which one is correct. The more widely accepted story credits Frank J. Wisner of Cripple Creek, Colorado, a mining town southwest of Colorado Springs, who in August 1893 noticed that the snow-capped peaks of Cow Mountain looked like a scoop of vanilla ice cream floating in a dark liquid. He went back to his saloon and dropped a scoop of vanilla ice cream into a glass of Myers Avenue red root beer. He called it the Black Cow. The other story credits a soda fountain in Denver proper, also in the 1890s. Historians have gone back and forth. The details are murky. What is not murky is that the root beer float, carbonated root beer, a scoop of vanilla ice cream, the fizz rising around the edges of the glass, is an American institution, and its most credible origin point is the state of Colorado. Today, the root beer float generates billions of dollars in sales across the United States every summer. In 1890, Henry Perky was a Denver lawyer and businessman with a digestive problem. He was traveling by train when he met a man who was also suffering from stomach troubles, but seemed to be managing through a diet of boiled wheat berries eaten with milk. Perky became fascinated. He went home to Denver and started experimenting with ways to make whole wheat more palatable. In a factory in downtown Denver, he invented a machine that could take whole wheat berries, shred them into long, thin filaments, and press them into layered biscuits. He called them shredded wheat. He sold them from a health food restaurant in Denver before eventually taking the concept national and moving production east. Shredded wheat became a cereal staple across America. Today, it is the foundational ingredient in Wheaties, the self-styled Breakfast of Champions, and multiple other breakfast cereals. It is in pantries across the country, largely unrecognized as a Denver invention because Perky moved his company to Massachusetts before the brand became nationally famous. New York has thin crust, Chicago has deep dish, Colorado has mountain pie. and most of the country has never heard of it. It's 1973. Chip Bear, a Brooklyn-born, Minnesota-raised entrepreneur, buys a tiny 15-seat pizza shack in Idaho Springs, a historic mining town west of Denver in the mountains along I-70, from its original owners Bo and Joanne Folk. He renames it Bo Joe's and starts developing what will become Colorado-style pizza. Mountain pie is built for altitude and appetite. The crust is enormously thick, bready, chewy, substantial, almost bread bowl-like at the edges, and it is traditionally served with honey on the side. The edges of the crust are meant to be eaten dipped in honey as a dessert after the pizza. The cheese is piled high. The toppings are generous. The whole thing is designed for people who have been skiing or hiking all day and arrive at dinner with the specific hunger of someone who has spent hours in cold mountain air. Bo Joe's now has locations across Colorado. The mountain pie style has spread to dozens of Colorado pizzerias. In 1969, a 19-year-old named Mo Siegel and two friends started hiking through the Rocky Mountains around Boulder, 25 miles northwest of Denver, and picking wild herbs and flowers. Peppermint, chamomile, rose hips. They dried them, blended them, sewed them into handmade muslin bags, and sold them to local health food stores for 50 cents a bag. They called it Celestial Seasonings, after one of the blend names they liked. Their first blend was called Mo's 24, after Siegel himself. Their most famous early creation was Red Zinger, a tart, bright tea made with hibiscus, lemongrass, and rose hips that became one of the first wellness beverages to go genuinely mainstream in America. Celestial Seasonings didn't invent herbal tea, but they invented the American herbal tea market. Before them, tea in America meant black tea, served hot or iced. The idea of a tisane, a caffeine-free herbal blend, as a daily beverage for health and pleasure was essentially foreign to mainstream American consumers. Celestial Seasonings created the concept, built the category, and popularized it with branding. Their boxes featured elaborate, whimsical illustrations that made herbal tea feel like something worth seeking out. Denver is the undisputed capital of American craft beer. Not because of Coors, though Coors, founded in Golden, just west of Denver in 1873 by German immigrant Adolf Coors, is the largest single brewery in the world by capacity. But because what happened after Coors defines Denver's food identity more than Coors itself. The Wincoop Brewpub opened in a restored warehouse in lower downtown Denver in 1988. Denver's first craft brewery, co-founded by John Hickenlooper, who would later become the city's mayor and then governor of Colorado. It helped spark the revival of lower downtown, now known as Lodo, turning a derelict warehouse district into Denver's most vibrant neighborhood. From that one brewpub, Denver's craft beer culture exploded. By the time Colorado legalized small brewery licenses in the 1990s, dozens of small operations were opening across the Front Range. Today, the Denver-Boulder area has nearly 400 craft breweries, more breweries per capita than almost any other metropolitan area in the United States. The Great American Beer Festival, held in Denver every October, is the largest commercial beer competition in the world. Denver craft beer is not a single style. It is a philosophy, local ingredients, experimental methods, small batches, constant innovation. Brewers have made beer with Rocky Mountain oysters in it, with Palisade peaches in it,